I write because I want to reach out to other women too. This particular book, which was about women prisoners, was actually my way of trying to convey what I observed. I'm not really, I'm not really a writer. I've written uh, on issues like displacement, on issues like contract labor, on issues that which are many of them are legal issues, and many of them are legal and social issues. Um, this particular book, which was about women prisoners, was actually my way of trying to convey what I observed of their lives. Because um, one thing that I realized, I mean, one thing which is very different for women prisoners, I mean, as distinguished from male prisoners, is that um, when you imprison a woman, you imprison a family. So sometimes they have their children with them, sometimes they are separated from their children, and the nature of their crimes, many times their crimes very deeply associated with the family, um, and they and they're often abandoned by the society, so they're just left on their own devices. And how in those very difficult circumstances, how they work, how they help each other, fight with each other, how they and how they survive to live another day. And that was something I found very remarkable. It was that resilience which really made me write about them and observe them. And in the course of that, I did feel that there is a huge injustice being done to many of those women. Some of them because they're simply poor, others because they have a certain identity. I mean, as I said, I mean, Pardhi women, for example, simply discriminated and put in for all kinds of petty thefts and crimes which there's no proof that they've committed. I mean, and then there are certain things like the so-called immoral traffic, sex work, which is criminalized by a society and yet indulged by it, yet supported by it. And usually you're caught only because you don't pay the police enough. So all this which I observed, and I really wanted to convey that. I wanted to talk about that. And it's a world that's hidden away, and it needed to be written about. And actually I got immense inspiration from the the capacity of these people to work and laugh and live behind bars. uh, I think because when you go to prison, you're of course feeling very sorry for yourself, but uh, I mean, the others who were there were so much more miserable than I was. They didn't have lawyers, they didn't have family, they couldn't understand what were the legal the what was the legal meaning of the case they were going through. And I think it was very important. um, they and their rehabilitation is very different from the rehabilitation of a male, because once you're abandoned by both your natal family and your marital family, how are you going to go back? Are you going to go back into the same profession, like for instance, as happens with uh, sex work and so on? So I mean, rehabilitation is something really serious. I mean, it involves finance, it involves education, it involves being socially accepted again. And I really think we need to work very hard on all of it. So how did I write? I just looked through the bars, and I just loved putting myself into somebody's shoes and thinking, how has this person got here? What has happened? And because we were in the Phansi Yard, so it was not possible to meet people continuously, but we would, when we went to court or mulakat or canteen or to fill water or whatever, we bump into them. There would be many encounters. And then, once the jigsaw puzzle would fall into place, then I'd write about that person. So it was like, piecing together lives and trying to come to know them. So they're like sketches. I mean, um, they were my impressions. and also my reaction as a lawyer, as a social activist, why they were there. I mean, should they have been there at all? How would they get out? What would their life be later? So all those questions which were coming into my mind. Oh yes, very much so. I think writing kept maintained my sanity. It gave me something to do. It also told me, in no uncertain terms, that there are people, as I said, far more miserable than you are. I mean, and you should help them if you can. Of course, in Yerwada, I was not really able to help them much, even as a lawyer. But later on, when I shifted to Baikala, there I became sort of lawyer for the people in the jail and used to write applications day and night. So I was in the barracks, so I could socialize with people much more. But yeah, so it was very much cathartic. It definitely was. And it was something I needed to do for myself as well, to also understand. And yeah, and it was difficult. Well, I used to get my pens and notebooks from the canteen. From my family would send money order, and from that money you're able to buy certain things in the jail. And I would spend most of the time in my cell at night writing. So yeah, it was something which gave me a purpose. And it helped me understand. You know, I think it helped me understand our society much better. I think I began writing it well, almost yeah, 2 3 weeks into going into the jail, and I think I eventually filled up some 4 notebooks. So yeah, but it would take me a long time on each sketch, as I said, because I'd need to first observe that person and see that person in many, over many incidents maybe, and then maybe have an opportunity to meet that person while waiting for the mulakat or going to the court, or you know um, so it would take a lot of time, and it would take some time to piece together that person, because if one was only looking at them through the bars, either the front bars where you looked at the garden and so on, or the bars at the back of my cell where you would look at the factory where people would go to work. And but if you keep observing somebody for some time, you see the patterns, you see their behavior, you see their personality, and uh, slowly you come to recognize them and to love them also. So yeah. It was a very unexpected pleasure and a great honor to know that uh, I've actually been uh, selected for the Best Nonfiction Award um, for women writers by the Times of India and JK paper. Um, I was it was very overwhelming actually. Um, and but the first thought which came to my mind when I heard of it was of the invisible presence in that book, uh, of my co-traveler of the book, Professor Shoma Sen. Uh, she was the person who was there with me in the observing, in the anecdotes, in the writing, in the ups and downs of jail life. And I really very sincerely hope that she will also be able to breathe the air of freedom very soon. It's long deserved, much deserved. She's the first person I thought of when this award came through. Um, the other reason uh, I'm happy is that um, this book talks about women who are locked away, who one doesn't think about, who are in the prisons. And if this recognition to this book helps us all as a society to think more about these women, to think how patriarchy has provoked certain crimes, to think about how some women are in jail simply because of their identity, like the Parthi women are, or how Some women are just there almost hostages, legal hostages, because their gangster husbands or their gangster sons can't be caught. Or how, the entire society is so complicit in something which becomes a crime of the woman, the so-called immoral traffic. I hope we think more deeply on these questions. I hope also that we make some practical arrangements which are much better. We need more competent legal aid. We need more effective rehabilitation. We need to pay better wages for prison work. There are many, many ways we can make the lives of women prisoners better. But I think the first thing is to observe them through a human lens. That's what I've tried to do. Well, if there's history, then there's her story also. So I think the author awards is a good way of starting to build up a her story, um, because many of the time, when there's something like a so-called mainstream literature, and then there is the literature churning below that in many different identities and many different, um, you know layers and layers of the society. And I think, yeah, so the way it's spelled, AUTHER. And I remember some friends saying, oh, it's wrongly spelled. So I said, no, it's not wrongly spelled, it's just properly spelled. So those are the author awards for you. Yes. Actually, I have too many favorites. It's very difficult to say off the cuff since you're asking me. But one of the books which always, for a long, long time, inspired me was to Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. Aapka Banti by Manu Bhandari. Ismat Chughai's stories. Um, Anna Akhmatova's poetry, Arundhati Roy's political essays. I mean, who do I say? I mean, they're all such different types of writing by women. And of course, I'm not mentioning a Romila Thapar, or or academic writing, which of course there's also a lot of. Um, but yeah, there I think women have contributed immensely. It's very difficult to for me to put down one author. I think I think honesty. I mean, as I said, I mean, I didn't even think of myself as an author. I just thought of myself who was very honestly writing what I was seeing. There's a lot of self censorship which happens when one is afraid of writing the truth. And I think the important thing is not to do that, to be able to be honest. And I think that's very, very important for our times today. Particularly if you're speaking truth to power, then it's very, very difficult, but needs to be done. I write because I want to reach out to other women too. I write because I need to reach out. Yes.